Hi everyone, my name's Barclay Loggie. Welcome if this is the first time you're joining me, and welcome back if you've stuck with me for a few months, couple of years now. Today's make is a lovely introduction to using seed beads, or to using seed beads with maybe your gemstones. It's the perfect tutorial for a beginner, somebody who's a bit anxious about starting to bead with these teeny tiny beads, because we don't use that many of them, and the fact that we're using bigger gemstones in the project means that it beads up a lot quicker. It's also perfect if you're a more advanced beader, because let's face it, when we spend days on a project, it's lovely to have something that is super quick to make. So this is the little bracelet that we are going to make today. Just hold it. It's using a 6mm bead as your main bead. So I've used a gemstone, a jadeite bead, and then using size 11 and size 8 seed beads, and they almost just form like a little bezel around your gemstones. So some of you may have bezeled with wire or silver before, and this is like a little bezeling effect but with seed beads. So we'll get straight to it and I'll show you exactly what you're going to need. Start by looking at the materials that we need to make this little bracelet. I've got 6mm size beads here. These are gemstones, but you could use glass beads or 6mm wooden beads, anything that's 6mm in size. I've got size 11 seed beads and size 8 seed beads in exactly the same colour. So they are Dura galvanized silver in the 11s and the 8s. I've got a toggle clasp, I've got my beading needle, and if you've watched any of my tutorials before, you'll know that I always head for the size 10 beading needle. It's got the biggest eye for threading, and I tend to always use 6-pound FireLine as well. It's a great thread to use in all your bead weaving. And I've got a thread zapper here to end off any. We're ready to get going. So you need to thread about 1.5 meters of your thread onto your needle, and you're going to start by picking up one of the 6mm beads and move it down towards the end of your thread. You want to leave about a 20cm tail, because that'll come in handy when we're attaching the clasp at the end. So I've got my 20cm tail, and I'm going to start by picking up 2 11s, 1 8 and 2 11s, and I'm going to pass straight back up through that bead. And those beads that I've just picked up sit around one side. I'm going to do exactly the same for the other side. So I'm going to pick up 2 11s, 1 8 and 2 11s, and I'm going to pass back up through the bead again. But this time the beads that I've picked up will sit to the left of my 6mm bead. So there they are on the left. And I have these gaps, top and bottom, that I need to fill. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to come round one side. It doesn't matter if you go to the left or to the right. I'm just passing through those 5 beads that I added. And to fill this gap at the bottom here, I'm going to be picking up 1 11, 1 8, 1 11, and I'm going to pass up through all the beads that are to the left of my 6mm bead. Through these two as well. So I've now got to just close the gap up at the top, and I'm going to do that with the 3 beads again, the combination of 1 11, 1 8 and 1 11, and I'm going to pass through the beads that are on the right of my 6mm bead. So there you have your first 6mm encased by your size 11 and your size 8 seed beads. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to pass through all these beads just to make this initial one sit nice and snugly around my 6mm bead. And actually what I want to have is there's my tail thread exiting to the left, and I want my working thread exiting from this 8 on the right. So I'm just going to pass through the beads until I'm exiting the size 8 seed bead on the right hand side. We're beading this bracelet on one continuous piece of thread. I've got my tail thread coming off to the left and my working thread ready to continue off to the right. But if we look at it a little more closely, you'll see that I've got 4 points, like the compass points, north, south, west and east, where I've got an 8, size 8 seed bead positioned, and between each of them I have 3 11s. So we are now exiting the base of this size 8 seed bead. I'm going to come around with seed beads for the base of my next gemstone, and then I'll do the top. So having just seen that I've got 3 11s between each of my 8s, I'm going to be picking up 3, an 8, and another 3 11s. So that is this lower section here that's going to come around my second 6mm bead, and I'm going to pick up one more 8 for the end, for the edge, and then I'm going to pass through one of the 6mm gems. And I'll just get my thread and my fingers out the way, and I'm going to come back through this size 8 seed bead that we were exiting from to begin with, but we were exiting from the base, and we're going to pass through the bead from the top to the bottom, and from there I'm going to pass straight through the 6mm bead. And when you pull your thread tight, you'll see that that lower edge just neatly cuffs the 6mm bead that you're using. So we now need to decorate the top, and we're going to do exactly the same. 3 of our size 11s. Whoops, one shot off. 1 8 and another 3 11s. And we're going to pass through that same 8 that sat on the easterly point of our very first gemstone. So I'm just coming down through the size 8 seed bead, and you'll notice there's a bit of a gap there, but this is all going to close up as we sort this out now. You're then going to pass straight back through the 6mm bead. You're heading for that size 8 seed bead that's on the extreme right hand side. And I'm going to pass down through that size 8 seed bead. And when you pull your threads up, you'll see that it starts to pull everything into place. So I'm ready to start again. I'm going to be doing the lower edging of my third gemstone. So I'm going to pick up 3 11s. 1 8 and 3 11s. Then I'm going to pick up the 8 that's going to be on the extreme right hand side before I pass through the 6mm gemstone. I'm going to just drop those down to there, and I need to come back through the size 8 that sat on the easterly side of our second gem, but I'm passing through it from the top to the bottom. And I'm going to pass back through the gem, pull my threads through tight, and I need to do the top edge with another 3 of my 11s. It's an 8 and 3 more 11s. It is important to keep your tension tight because you don't want gapping around the edge of your gems or whatever kind of 6mm bead you're using. And I'm going to come back down through the 8 from the top to the bottom and pass through the 6mm bead. And then I'm going to continue. I'm going to come back down through that 8, ready to start again, because I always do the bottom edge first. So just if you're struggling with your tension, one of the tips I give people is to just keep popping your beadwork down on your mat and flattening things a little with your finger. It seems to help the beads spread and move into position because you don't want anything puckering up or doubling over. So there I've got 3 of my gems in place and I'm ready to go again, and I start by picking up the seed beads. So it's 3 11s, 1 8 and another 3 11s and an 8 for the outer edge. Pass through your 6mm gem and come back down through the 8 that you're borrowing from the 3rd gemstone. And then you're going to pass. You can see how loose my threads are there. That's why it's so important to make sure that you've pulled everything through tightly. Once you've come through that gemstone, just give it an extra little tug and you'll see that everything lines up in place. And we need to do the top edge, so that's 3 of our 11s, 1 8, 3 of our 11s, and passing back through that 8 and back through the 6mm bead in the center. Give it an extra little tug and get everything in place. So there I've got 4 of my gems, and you're going to continue with that till you've got a length long enough to fit around your wrist or the wrist of the person that you're making this for, and then I'll come back to you and show you a simple way of adding on the clasp. So I've now come to the end of my beaded strip, and I'm just going to show you that's about 6 inches, and I've used 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. I've used 17 6mm gemstones, and that's given me roughly 6 inches of a beaded strip. Bear in mind that when you add in a clasp, particularly a toggle clasp, it can add, you know, an inch or more to your design. So you don't want to bead this strip too long and then have your bracelet way too big. So I'm going to show you how to add in one end of the clasp. The other side is exactly the same. So I'll just show you on this side. My thread is exiting the base of this size 8 bead right at the end, which is where it would be if I was going to continue beading this strip. And I'm just going to use my size 11 seed beads for this. So I don't want to make mine that much longer. If you want to add in a bit of extra length, this is where you can add in more beads when you're attaching your clasp. I'm only picking up 3, but you might pick up 7, and that will give you an even longer attachment base and therefore elongate the whole length of your bracelet. But I've picked up 3, and I'm then going to pass through the loop of one end of my toggle, and I'm going to pass my needle back down through the size 11 seed bead that is closest to my toggle. And in fact, I'm going to come down through another one as well because I'm only coming back to a size 8. So I'm coming down through 2. And then I only need to pick up 1 because I'm back through 2. I need 1 to make up the 3 to match what I picked up initially. And you can see where your thread was coming out the base of the size 8. I'm going to come back through the size 8 from the top to the bottom. And you just need to pull all those threads through tightly, and you'll see that it's a neat little addition onto the end there. And you can do exactly the same on the other side. You could have actually only picked up 2 beads, come down through 1, picked up 1, and then passed through that size 8 seed bead. Then you're going to end off this thread. So I'm going to come straight through the size or the 6mm seed bead, all the time pulling my threads tight so that everything stays where it should be. I'm now going to do a double half hitch knot, and this is a great way of ending off a thread. When you're doing bead weaving and you've got a peyote stitch design, it's easy to lose your thread in your design. But this is just like a simple bezeling around these 6mm beads. So a double half hitch knot is going to do the business for us. So I've passed my needle under the thread that is between the 6mm and the size 8 seed bead. And I formed a loop and I pass my needle through that loop and I pull tight. That is a half hitch. And to make it a double, you just do it again. So under the thread that's between the 6mm and the size 8 seed bead, form your loop and pass your needle through the loop. And the best thing to do is to pass back through that big bead, because you're going to now pull that knot into the bead, and that means that when you come to snip off your thread, you are not going to snip through your knot and cause everything to become undone. So I'm just going to pass up through some beads just to end off my threads, making sure that I'm pulling everything in tight, and I'm going to come all the way back to this size 8 seed bead on the other side. And then I can end off my thread, slip my needle onto this side, and do exactly the same with the bar of my toggle clasp. So there you have your simple, it's a really great project for beginners because it's not too involved with these teeny tiny beads. It's an easy introduction to the seed beads. Hope you've enjoyed the tutorial, and as always, if you make this, please post it to my Facebook page, Joe Barclay Loggie Handmade Jewelry, because my favorite part of doing these demos is seeing what you do, what colors you choose, and how you adapt the design. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon for a new tutorial. Bye.